Hi everyone, and welcome back to Exploring AWS for the Cloud Practitioner. I hope everyone's enjoying this video series. I'm having a blast recording it. In the next video, we're actually going to take a look at accessing the CLI. And before we do that, I wanted to create a few users for us to be able to use just CLI access. And so why not record that video? You guys are going to need to know how to create multiple users anyway, so it makes sense to make a video of it. In order to create a new user, again, remember, we do not want to continue to use our root account, even though I'll probably do that throughout the rest of the series because it'll just make it easy. In production, you definitely want to have different users to do different things in different roles. You want to make sure that you maintain different access rights for different users. You don't want to just have a bunch of admins all the time. So how do we do this? Well, in order to do that, we're going to have to go to the IAM dashboard. Now, the IAM dashboard can be accessed a number of different ways. So you'll notice here that right on the main console, there's a drop-down called All Services. You can get to it from there. If you just simply scroll down, you'll notice IAM under the Security, Identity, and Compliance. Depending on where you are within your console, depending on what screen you're on or what you're doing at the time, you may find out, oh wait, I do need a separate IAM user for this function. What do I do now that I'm on this other screen? The Services tab up here, you can click the drop down and you'll be able to see, if you scroll down again under Security, Identity, and Compliance, you'll see IAM. Now, the one thing is, as you navigate through the user interface, this search field is always going to be there. So again, you could type in users if you can spell right. And then again, you see second from the top IAM, or you could type IAM. Again, spelling is key, or get there from there, right? The other thing that's always going to be present as you navigate through the user interface is going to be your account information and your availability zone. So if I click my account, you'll see that I have my security credentials. All of these things will bring me to the IAM dashboard. So don't ever be worried or say, oh no, I got to stop what I'm doing and kind of go back to create this new user. You don't have to do that. There are ways to get there from, again, other screens, okay? So I'm going to click on IAM. And we need to understand groups, roles, and users. So users are pretty self-explanatory, right? It's a user. I'm a person. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to access this particular, I'm JP, and here you go. I'm going to log in. Now, roles are essentially allowing us to do certain things. So, when I say that you have a role as an admin, that's your role. You are an admin. If you're a power user, that's your role. You are a power user. When we create a user, that user needs to be a member of a group, and that group is going to contain one or more roles. So if I go and I create a group called admins, I would put the role of an admin within that group. So let's go ahead and go through it. It'll make more sense to you. Let's click on users. We're going to create a user. Now, I don't have any of this set up so far, so we're going to do this from scratch. We're going to say explore admin 21. This is going to be my new admin account that I will quote unquote use instead of my root account up here. Now I'm going to go ahead and give this admin both programmatic access, basically being able to access the API, the CLI, the SDKs, etc. You would do that if you're a developer or you're an old command line junkie like me. And I'm also going to give them access to the AWS console. So you can check either one of these or both of them, doesn't matter. Now I'm going to give them a custom password because I want my passwords to match. And I'm also going to make sure that I don't have to reset the password when I log in because that will make my OCD crazy. Now, the next thing we're going to do, or we need to do, is the permissions. So I don't have any groups currently set up. Remember that we need a group. We need to make this user a member of a group in order for them to have access. So we're going to say create a group. And we're going to name this group admins. And right at the top here, you're going to see administrator access. However, if you scroll down here, you're going to see all of the different, access roles that AWS has. They've really done a really great job at, minimizing what users can and can't do based on roles. So for example, if I just wanted a user to be able to have access to my EC2 instances and nothing else, I could just say, well, you're going to have my EC2 instances and that's it. If I wanted this user to be able to log in and just simply read only or just look at my EC2 instances, I could give them read only access. So, there are a bazillion different roles. I'm just kind of scrolling down here. There are tons and tons of different roles that you can use, and you can make multiple roles part of a group. So it's not like, okay, they're admins, they only have to be admins. Again, this admin here is going to give them global access to all the different roles underneath. The difference between the root account and an admin account is that, a root account is going to have access to all the back end information of your account, billing information, your support agreements, things like that. Whereas this admin is only going to have technical administrative access to the account. So they'll be able to look at your Elastic file shares. They'll be able to look at, different, your S3 storage, things like that. So we'll say create group. Make sure that they remember that group. Next, tags. Now, you don't have to do this. I always do just because, it's kind of built in. I always like to tag or label what this particular group is or what anything is. You'll see as we turn up EC2 instances, I'll always give it a name tag and name what it is. If I have a system of record like a CMDB or I'm using Cisco's secure workload, I want to be able to pull in these tags to be able to understand what things are. So I always give it a label, even though this really isn't required. You can see up here, it's optional. So we'll say review, we'll say create user, and we're done. Now, this is something incredibly important. If you forget everything in this video, please remember the next 3 minutes. This access key that is generated for this user, this is a one-time view of this key. If you do not copy your secret access key, if you do not take this information and put it somewhere for safekeeping, you will never get this again. You can download this via CSV. You can click send it to you in email. You can simply copy and paste it if that's what makes you happy and stick it in Notepad somewhere. You will always be able to see the access ID. You will always be able to see the user, but you will not be able to essentially grab the access key password, which is what I've highlighted here. This is a one-time only. If we lose this or we neglect to copy and paste this or save it somewhere, the only thing that I can do is make this key inactive and create a new one. I will not be able to grab this information again. Now, I'm not going to grab it because I don't care. So if I go into this user and I click on security credentials, you'll notice that there's no way for me to grab that secret ID anymore, that secret key. I can see the access ID. That's great. I can see when it was created. I cannot click on it at all. I cannot delete it. All I can do, well, I can delete it here, I think, and say yes. But I can't grab that secret key. I can only make it inactive or delete it, and I'd have to create a new one. Now, that's not a really big deal to create a new one, but if you are using, if this is the user ID that we use for CLI access, or you can see things like PowerShell or whatever. If I have a team of folks that are using this ID for programmatic access, and all of a sudden we delete the key, and the key is what grants us access to the CLI, well, we may have a big production problem. So again, be very, very careful with your with your secret. Almost didn't come out there with your secret keys. Okay, let's go back to users. We're going to create a power user. So we're going to say explore power user, and we're going to give them again the same access, same password. And when I say the same access, I just mean we're going to give them programmatic access as well as AWS console access. We're going to say next permissions. I don't have a group for power users, so we'll say create a group. We'll call this power users, and in the search field, we're just going to type the word power user access. This tells us exactly provides access to AWS services and resources, but does not allow management of users and groups. So essentially, most of your users would probably be power users. You're probably not going to give them admin access because you don't want them creating random users all the time. That's really the big difference here. So we'll say next tags. Again, we're just going to give this guy a group ID. We're going to say power users, review, create user. Again, one time only, right? I don't care in this case because this is my power user. We're going to say close. Now, the next one I'm going to need to copy because that's going to be our CLI. So we're going to say add user. We're going to say explore CLI 21. And I'm going to delete these users afterwards, so it doesn't really matter. We're going to say programmatic access. We're going to say next. Now notice, actually, I'm going to back up. Notice how it did not ask us for a password, right? And the reason is because you don't get CLI access based on a user ID and password. You get CLI access based on the access keys. So when we say programmatic access enables access ID and enables the secret key, you don't get a user ID and password because you're not going to use one. Next, we're going to say permissions. We're just going to go ahead and put them in the admin group for now. Normally what I would do is I would go back in here and I would probably create a different group or some roles on what I wanted them to be able to access. But in this case for the video, I don't really care. Group ID, and we're going to say CLI. We'll leave out access. We'll just say CLI. Next review. Now, when we see create user, what's going to happen is it's going to give us these access keys. And this, again, is the only time for us to grab this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab this and I'm going to pop it in Notepad. So let me just open up Notepad really quick. And we'll put it on another screen so that we have it. Again, because this is our only chance to get it. And you know what? We'll download it in CSV as well. So if we open up the CSV file, let me bring Excel in here. You'll notice that it does give us the secret. It gives us the key ID, the username, no password, and it gives us the secret access key. We're going to need this for the next video. So once we're done here, we'll just say close, and there we have it. We've created 3 different users. They have 3 different functions. They have 3 different roles, if you will. And if we go into groups, you're going to see that we have 2 different groups. If we go into roles, you know, this is where we can go and we can create different roles if we want to. So we can say create a role, and then we can click on different access and different things that we want that role to be able to see. So this is how we create different users within our AWS console. I'll see you folks in the next video where we explore CLI access.